morning, and welcome to the Survive to Thrive series presented by Rick Fuller. He's the team leader of the #1 team in the San Francisco Bay Area in Sac County for most recent sales, according to Zillow. Rick is a national real estate coach, he's a community leader, and he has 4 offices, 3 in the Bay Area and 1 in Sac County. He also has close to 1,000 5-star online reviews. I'm Christina Morales. I'm a writer, marketer, and Rick is my dear friend. He's my mentor, and I admire you so much, Rick. So thank you for starting these webinars, presenting them, sharing your wisdom. I appreciate each one, and we're on number 10.
It was a month ago that you and I said, let's bring 10 webinars to the small business, to the entrepreneur, to the real estate agent, to help them navigate through these ever-changing times. And this is now webinar number 10. We've arrived. We've reached the mountaintop. Congratulations. You've hung out with me for 10 hours. And we have talked about a little bit of everything, haven't we?
Oh, yeah. And I've learned so much. It has been so valuable. And I've noticed a lot of our people have been on multiple calls. So I hope they found it as enriching as I have, because this time is interesting. And you are right. You said we're going to survive, pivot, and thrive. And so we've survived, and now things are starting to open up. Regularly, we're not going to go there, but now this is the time to pivot. And it's exactly what you said all those weeks ago.
Yeah, we really started off with, we believe that this time shelter in place now, when we started this, shelter in place was only in Contra Costa and the Bay Area, in the San Francisco Bay Area. Then it extended to the state of California, and pretty soon 90% of the country is under some form of shelter in place. And we started this saying, okay, here's how to adapt, that there's going to be 3 phases or 3 seasons to come. The first season was you have to survive. And I don't mean healthy wise. I mean, yes, social distancing, all of that's necessary, but economically and in your business, you've got to survive. And those that are sick with this, physically with their health, and they have health challenges or their immune system is compromised, and our heart goes out to you. We pray for you and sincerely hope that you get feeling better and recover quickly. This webinar is more about the economic impacts and the impacts on a small business, the impacts on an entrepreneur, and an impact on a real estate agent, and how to navigate these markets. And we said, listen, phase 1, season 1, is you got to survive. You've got to survive. And we gave all kinds of tips on how businesses were going virtual and restaurants were doing takeout and delivery. We saw real estate agents starting to do virtual open houses and virtual showings and adapting their business. We saw Zoom go through the roof. Before this, nobody knew what a Zoom meeting was. Thought it was a come to my office quick. It's a Zoom meeting. Zoom over here. Let's get started. And now most people know what a Zoom meeting is. So we talked about that. We also talked about how to cut back expenses. That was a very real topic. And frankly, of the 10, that was the hardest for me because you know me, Christina, and I'm an entrepreneur at heart. And everything we do, we kind of grow and it expands. And we almost look at it like there's a favor upon it, that it just keeps growing, keep building, keep expanding. I hire somebody part-time, they become full-time, and next thing you know, they're working overtime. And that's just been the trajectory of my life and business. And so that was a very hard topic to say, cut back expenses and look at your expenses. And now we can see the rest of the country. You begin to feel, even anecdotally, that we're now pivoting as a country. And we're pivoting as a state, we're pivoting as a county, and it's an exciting time. And then there's another season to come, and it's the one that we are not talking about right now, but we will be talking about, and that's the Thrive market. How do you thrive in the market to come? And we talked about that when I talked about what we call the 4th Industrial Revolution. We called that webinar Trains, Trucks, and Shelter in Place, and what all that has to do, what all that is in common. And we talked about how technology is going to be a major driving force in the future. And the shelter in place ushered in technology, didn't it? The shelter in place pushed us in a direction of using technology when we were uncomfortable. I remember it was my nephew's birthday, and we did a Zoom call while under shelter in place. And before that, of course, we would have met, we would have went out to dinner or lunch or whatever. And now we're using a Zoom call. It ushered in that virtual connection. By the way, without that virtual connection, we would only have to be on the phone, right? And so now we're able to connect. And so we talked about that. And that was actually one of the funnest of the webinars that we've done. But this one, this is my favorite. This is the topic I've been waiting to get to. And it's really, I think, the #1 ingredient of team building. Like, what is the one thing, the most important thing that you can do as a team leader that is the key ingredient to building a real estate team that lasts, or any team for that matter? Maybe you're a part of a church, or maybe you're a part of a sport league, or maybe you're a part of a small business, or maybe you're a part of a large business. Like, what's the ingredient? What's the universal ingredient that needs to be added to that recipe for a team to last? And that's what we're going to be talking about today.
That's great. I would love to see how many people have been on repeat calls. So if you could go in the chat box, those who are attending today, can you please tell us how many of these webinars you've attended? Have you attended 2, 3, 4? Is this your first one? We'd love to see that and hear from you. And also we have 2 bonus webinars coming up. And Rick, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, we weren't planning to do the bonus webinars. We scheduled 10 webinars, you and I, Christina, and on these calls, 2 things came out. People, I actually made a comment. I said, business owners, entrepreneurs, real estate agents ought to focus on the 4 R's. And the 4 R's being their financial kind of retirement plan and their financial picture, not just retirement, but their financial picture. And people said, what are the 4 R's? Like, tell us more about it. So I talked about it, and then they said, can you do a webinar on that? And so we made that the next bonus webinar and when are we doing that, Christina?
We're doing that next Tuesday, so that should be the 12th.
So 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, we'll talk about the 4 R's of your financial plan, and what I call how you fill those buckets. And so we'll be talking about that. By the way, we see some people, we've got some that have been on the call 3 times, 6 calls, some of the 3 webinars. This will be the first one. Very cool. Let us know in the chat box how many webinars you've been on. 6, 4. Okay. Can you tell us what the 4 R's are? Yeah. So we believe that the financial plan of a small business, of an entrepreneur, and a real estate agent, I kind of group those all into one because I have different audiences that are on these calls. And we believe it has 4 buckets, okay? And that in some sense, your income is the faucet. And over the course of your life, you can't just let your income go down the drain. But you got to grab these buckets and you got to fill them. And the first one you got to fill is your retirement. Filling that retirement bucket. Now that might be a 401k for you. That might be a 403b. That might be a SEP IRA, a Roth IRA, a traditional, whatever it is, right? I'm not going to give you financial advice, but you got to fill that bucket. Number 2, you got to fill the real estate bucket. Then you got to buy investment property. Many of you are real estate agents that are on the call. And it's amazing to me how we have helped so many people. Christina, Zillow is tracking that we've now helped 1,100 people invest in real estate. And in all of that time, we've got to invest in real estate ourselves. It's not enough just to help everybody else. So the second R is real estate. Make sure you're investing in real estate. The third R, which is critical, is you got to have some reserves. We've been teaching this for now over 10 years, the 4 R's. And the reserves, I would always kind of blow through it like, hey, have 3 to 6 months expenses. And you know what we learned, Christina, is that shelter in place absolutely caused you to have to meet that. You should have had that 3 to 6 months expenses. And you can call them earnings, you can put them in a money market account, you put them in a savings account, but you got to have some reserves. You got to have 3 to 6 months of reserves. And I talked to you about how do you do that, why that's important. And in the past, I'd kind of skip over it or just kind of cover it, just kind of surface. Now I'm really digging into it to say, look, this pandemic across around the world has caused financial devastation. And if you didn't have 3 to 6 months expenses, you're now realizing the value of grandma's advice, right? Grandma's advice was save some for a rainy day. And and the fourth R, which is critical, is you got to have a residual income. It is not enough to spend your day every day going to work, whatever you do, and then not have a residual income. How do you create a residual income where it's not trading your hours for dollars? How do you do that? And so if you have those 4 in your plan, something unique happens and you begin to create cash flow. And I talked to you about what kind of cash flow do you need to sustain your lifestyle so that someday your passive income supersedes your earned income. Those are the 4 R's. And that's what we're going to devote the entire webinar to next week when we go over that Tuesday at 10 a.m. And that's what our bonus webinar is. So, and you'll have to go to that webinar to hear about bonus webinar number 2 that we're going to put, which is another request from you. So hope that's helpful.
That's great. And we have, that was on the 8 expenses to cut. And those points, Rick, you go into more depth on the 8 expenses to cut. They can find that episode on agentsthrive.com and obviously next week. And I'll send out the registration link. So today you said that you're going to share the secret sauce of your team. What makes your team different, unique, and special? So let's jump right in.
Well, let me ask you a question, Christina, and maybe in the chat box, if you feel like you want to engage, participate, I'd like to hear from you. Have you ever left a company? Why did you leave that company? And Christina, you and I don't role play these questions. We just kind of have a conversation about it. Did you ever leave a company, and then kind of why did you leave a particular company?
You want me to answer that for real?
I do, yeah.
Because it was unhealthy. It was not good for my mental health, and I was not appreciated. And it was about money, and it wasn't about people and helping people. And my boss was unhealthy. And so I thought in order to be the best person I could be, I needed to find somewhere healthy so I could be the best mom at home and the best wife at home I could be.
Yep. And I have found that type of message resonates throughout employees. They didn't leave the company, they left a bad culture. And what you're talking about is a culture, right? Like you left a bad, unhealthy culture. You weren't respected, you weren't appreciated. Maybe you didn't have a shared purpose. Maybe you didn't know where we were going. Maybe there was a lack of communication, whatever it is. See, I am convinced that people do not leave companies. They leave bad cultures. So you might say, I left my last company, but really if you dig a little deeper, most of you left a culture. And you probably left based on a leader. You know, what was that? Was he a good communicator? Were they respectful? Were they appreciative? Did they set clear expectations? And I am convinced that if most people leave a company because of a bad culture, then having a healthy culture is attractive. Matter of fact, having a shared purpose, Christina, the work that you and I are doing is bigger than ourselves. And we use a metaphor to describe it. We call it a culture tree. And so Christina's going to put up a slide here in just a minute. And the culture tree, I believe, is the secret sauce for any culture that any team that you're building in any organization. So I've got some people on this call, they're not in the real estate world where Christina and I are, and this works for you, okay? This is going to be relevant. And the most important thing, I think, it starts with having good soil. You know, Christina, I live on I don't live in a big house, but I got about a ½ acre lot, and I've got 19 fruit trees in my backyard.
Really?
Yeah, and I've planted about 16 of them. And I had 3 or 4 of them before I got here. And I've planted everything from oranges to apples to peaches to cherries and to apricots and all kinds of various trees. And you know, I've learned there's one thing in common with every tree that I've planted. You know what it is? The trees that grow the best, the trees that are the healthiest and the strongest have good soil. Right? And in contrast, do you remember when you were a kid and those weeds would grow between the cracks of your driveway, the concrete driveway?
We have that now.
They're doing that now.
Yeah.
And my dad would say, hey, go pull those weeds out there in the driveway, right? Or my mom would say, hey, go pull those weeds in the driveway. And although they were always kind of hard to grasp, but once you got a good grasp, they'd come right out because there wasn't good soil, right? It was poor soil trapped between the concrete in these cracks. And so if you don't have a good soil, then what ends up happening is you minimize the potential. In the cracks of your driveway, you are not likely going to see a towering redwood. You're not likely to see a strong oak tree. That doesn't happen in the cracks in your driveway. That happens when there's good soil. And so I'm convinced that before you ever even get to the tree, because the soil is not a part of the tree, but you got to have good soil in your life. Now, being a person of faith, I've come up with the three things that I believe are the good soil for my life. And the number one, I believe that having good soil, I got to have God in my life. Like, you may be a person of faith or not a person of faith. Hey, that's cool. For me personally, I have found that this life is more of a spiritual experience than a physical experience, right? Like the spiritual is lasting and the physical is not lasting. I got a friend that passed away just the other night, and I got a Facebook message saying, hey, did you realize this person passed away? And I can still hear his voice in my head. And I have to remind myself in those moments that we're not going through a physical experience, supplemented by a spiritual experience. We're going through a spiritual experience, and we have a temporal physical body.
Right.
And so I believe that that's part of what makes good soil and in a person's life is that there's a higher calling or a sense of purpose or even an accountability that goes beyond, there's an accountability for you and I, Christina. You and I said, hey, we're going to be on this call at 10 o'clock. And there's an accountability. There's also accountability when you have kind of a moral authority in your life that says, okay, I'm held accountable, yes, to Christina, and Christina's held accountable to me, but together we're held accountable to a higher authority. And I believe that having is a person of faith, that peace, that faith peace is the center point of having good soil. The second thing I believe is that you have to have family that's good soil. And I'll give you an example of what that means. And family dynamics, especially where we live in the Bay Area, they're all different, right? Single moms and there's people, multi-generations living in the same home. And however you define that family, I'm not going to define it, but here's what I am convinced of. That life doesn't compartmentalize well. You can't say, this is my family life, this is my work life, this is my spiritual life, this is my athletic life. You can't do that, right? This is my mental, this is my financials. That it all kind of intermingles, kind of commingles, if you will. It's kind of interlaced. And I'm convinced that good soil, people with good soil, they have a healthy family. And meaning that if you've ever had an argument with your spouse or your kids and you go to work, you're not the same. You're not as productive at work when you're thinking about that argument that you had with your spouse. You're not about the argument that you had with a family member, your parents, or even your children. There's that discipline. Man, it's hard to focus. And so you don't have to have a perfect family, but to have healthy family relationships create good soil, right? Create healthy soil. And it's in healthy soil that good things grow. And the third thing I'm convinced of, Christina, is that you've got to be a part of a community. I'm absolutely convinced these are the three things that make up a good soil in my life. A good community. And that could be friends, that could be organizations, that could be your neighborhood, but you got to have a good community because it's difficult to do life alone. I want you to remember this, that nobody in life succeeds alone. Shoot, Christina, we got like 50 team members on our team. We don't succeed alone. This certainly isn't the Rick show. This is more about us's and we's than it is I's and me's. Nobody succeeds alone. And if you want to go fast, you go by yourself. But if you want to go far, you go with others because we succeed best when we're together. We use the acronym, and it's kind of silly and even childish, but we use the acronym TEAM. Together, everyone achieves more. And it's true. We do achieve more when we're together. You know, Christina, you and I and a few other team members, it's not addition, it's multiplication. We multiply our results. And so when we have good soil, now we have the capacity for potential, because only in good soils, just like my trees, only in good soils can you reach your potential in life. Does this make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So let's go to number 2, Christina. So what's next? Okay, let's start talking about the roots of an organization. We talked about what makes good soil, and that's what I believe is God, family, and community. When I have those things in alignment, boy, I could talk all day about those 3 too, but for the sake of time, I want to kind of move on. Let's talk now about the importance of having roots. See, I believe that as an entrepreneur, a small business, or a real estate agent, you should first look for a problem before you find a solution. It all starts with a problem. There's a problem in the marketplace. There's a gap. And now selling 101, if you want to use the word selling, is simply you've identified a problem and you found a solution. It's really not that complicated. So if you have good roots, you have a mission, you have a why. There's a great TED Talk. It's actually the most famous TED Talk of all by Simon Sinek. And Simon Sinek talks about what he calls the golden circle. You can look it up. It's on YouTube. It's about 10 to 12 minutes. And he talks about most companies, most organizations, most teams, Christina, they start with the how. Like they're like, this is how I do it. This is how I do it. This is how I do it. And some talk about the what. This is what we do. This is what we do. Few organizations tap into the significance of their why and really the story. And I remember, Christina, when I was buying my first home, my oldest daughter turns 18 this month. And I remember we bought our first home and we were taking my daughter home from the hospital, and we had painted the nursery the color that we had chosen. And I can remember we did this Noah's Ark theme around her bedroom, right? Mm-hmm. And we had this crib that we had bought from my sister, and we'd set it all up. And owning that home made such a tremendous difference. But the process of buying that home was frustrating for me. Mm-hmm. And remember, I couldn't figure out what the next steps were. And I didn't understand the language, title and escrow and deposits and inspections. And I just didn't know. And I'm kind of a guy that likes to have things in order, a plan. And so when there wasn't a plan, it frustrated me and discouraged me. And I realized there was such great value in owning real estate, but the process was so frustrating that I wanted to help others have that kind of experience they're excited to tell a friend about and own real estate. And that became my why. Like, why do we do this? It all stemmed from me having a negative experience with the process and a great experience owning the product or owning real estate. And that became kind of the why we did what we did. And we started off saying, how do we fix this problem that most people had with buying and selling a home because they had a frustrating experience? How do we provide a solution to that? And that was our story. And it was from that why we did that that it began to grow and grow and grow into the team that we have today, with now multiple offices throughout the Bay Area and over 1,000 5-star reviews. And it all starts with your roots, and your roots are your why or your mission. So for us, from that experience, we realized that the buying and selling experience is unforgettable. You and Vinny probably remember your last move. Like, I remember my kids painting their walls in their room the color they wanted to paint them. I remember eating pizza on moving boxes. I remember when my moving truck broke down on 580 heading from Hayward. Oh, no. Right? It was frustrating. Right. And we realized that the move is so unforgettable that our roots as a real estate team became providing people the kind of experience they're excited to tell a friend about, because it's never forgotten. And studies after studies have shown that it impacts kids, that it impacts the grandparents and the aunts and uncles and multi-generations that are living in that home. That it doesn't just impact the principals or the homeowners or the buyers or sellers, it impacts everyone involved. It even impacts the community. Communities are healthier with a high percentage of home ownership, right? And so that became kind of our compelling why we exist, what we're doing, and then that began to create attraction for others that said, hey, I like that. I had a similar experience. You know, my moving truck didn't break down, but this happened. Yeah, I remember eating pizza on moving by. I remember painting the home. I remember getting the keys. And whatever their experience was, they said, yeah, we want to help others have that kind of experience that they're excited to tell a friend about. It's possible, it can be done, and frankly, it should be done. And that's when people started joining our organization saying, I want to be a part of a shared purpose that's bigger than ourselves. You know, I'm convinced, Christina, that people will be a part of something if it has two components. Number one is if it's first class. I mean, that it is really first class. It is, doesn't mean it's perfect. It's just a first class program, right? People will spend extra money to travel first class. People will spend extra money to shop in a first class store. And number two is if the purpose is bigger than one person. Like if it can't be done with one or even two, or if it's three, if there's a purpose that is bigger than all of us, like there's a challenge, there's a goal. And people join the organization when there are those two pieces, and your roots help you articulate. So your roots are why you do what you do as an organization. I got people on this call, and they're from all types of various businesses. I just told our story. You could interject your story. I was listening to the radio the other day, and there's a guy on the radio that says, I started a window company because the windows that I bought destroyed the stucco in my home. They installed them, you know, the ring around the window, and he said, I don't want that. And I started a company to fix that. That's a why. He's not starting with what he does. He's not even starting with how he does it. He's starting with why he does it. See, people want to be a part of that organization because they've had a similar experience. They want to be a part of something bigger than themselves in first class. And so that's your roots. It's why you do what you do. And I would tell you that although your leaves may change on your tree, the roots never do. And you may trim a branch, but you never trim your roots. Like that is the same throughout your entire organization. As long as your organization exists, the purpose, the why, the reason you exist never changes.
I love how your purpose isn't selling houses. I saw that your purpose is serving 500 families, not selling 500 houses. And I noticed it starts with your team members. You want to serve your clients and customers, but if your team isn't healthy and well, then they're not going to be able to serve outside of the building, outside of your company. And so from a personal standpoint, my husband's a nurse, and this time it's a little scary. It's a lot scary. And so every single time I talk with you, one of the first things you say is, how's Vinny? How's Vinny? And so from a personal standpoint, I love your integrity because everything you're saying, I've had a front row seat. And so I hope that people on the call can see how genuine and real you are, because you really do care about people first of all. So thank you. You're the leader that you say you are, and that's priceless. So thank you, Rick.
Thank you, Christina. You know, it's not perfect. It's not utopia. I tell people this usually on the first day of work. They come and they say, boy, this is great. I love what, we're not heaven on earth. Like, we haven't arrived. We're still learning and growing. And if you look hard enough, you'll find a pimple somewhere, right? It's just part of it. But the people that we have, you know what they do have? They have perfect intentions. They don't have perfect results. They got perfect intentions. I have tested this over and over, and they want to grow and they want to help others grow. And they've realized that, Christina, if I help you grow, and I help you and Vinny grow and your family, that doesn't take away, that adds to me. That adds to my joy, right? That adds to my satisfaction. It doesn't take away from. right? There's not a limited amount of joy in this world, right? Like you got some and therefore I don't have any. That's not how it works. When I help you and your families accomplish your goals, I then accomplish my goals. I love what Zig Ziglar said. Zig said, if you help enough people get what they want in life, then you'll have what you want. And really, if you think about it, Zig just reordered the golden rule, right? Do for others what you'd want done for yourself. That's what he did. He just said, if you help enough people get what they want in life, you always have what you want in life. And I found that to be true. If you get your focus off of yourself long enough, you can really help people accomplish their goals. Wow, we better move on, Christina, because I'm on route. We're 30 minutes in.
Well, it made me think of like the John Muir. Have you ever been to near woods? And they say that the redwoods grow so tall because the root systems are all intertwined. And so since they're all holding each other up, so exactly, that's perfect.
When you have, and that's a great point, Christina, because when you have great roots, a great why you exist in an organization, again, not the how and what, the why you exist, you'll weather the storm better. You'll stay stronger. When the winds and the turbulence and the pressures exist in life and you have good solid roots, you're going to hang on. And if you've ever driven through a community in which a tree didn't have good soil and didn't have good roots, you know, the winds come and the tree's now on the ground, right? It's blocking the roadway. And that's exactly what happens in an organization when it doesn't begin with a why, doesn't begin with the purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So,
all right, so what's next?
So let's talk about, okay, Rick, yeah, you gave me all this philosophy, the theory on how a good tree works, and it's got roots. How do we get things done? Like, what's the conduit? How do we do it? Well, on a tree, the conduit of the tree, from the roots to the fruit, the conduit is the trunk, right? Like that healthy trunk. And it channels and takes everything that's in the roots and brings it all the way to the fruit, right? And so what we are convinced is the best conduit for your dream, for your team's vision, where they're going, their why, their roots, the best conduit are the right team members. Mm-hmm. You've got to have great team members. You heard me say earlier, nobody succeeds alone. You won't find anybody in history who say, I did it all by myself. Nobody is a self-made man. Nobody is a self-made woman. There's always somebody there to help them along the way. You've got to have great people in your life, and that's part of having a great trunk. And we are convinced that there are three things that make up a great team member. And these three things are not trainable. It's not something I could say, Christina, welcome to the team. Let me train you on these three things. You either have them or you don't, period. And they're written about in a book by Patrick Lencioni called The Ideal Team Player. It really changed the way I viewed our team members, because now instead of looking for a specific role, maybe we're looking for a new coach or a listing specialist or a lead listing specialist or a buyer specialist. Instead of looking for that role, I look for a great team member. If I find a great team member, then I'll find the right spot for that talent. Instead of attracting people on the bus and then trying to figure out what seat, I want to have a vetting process before they ever get on the bus. If you parallel that to taking a flight, we want to make sure we don't have any disruptors on our flight, because there are turbulence and I don't need any disruptors when we're 10,000 feet in the air and we're aiming towards our mutual destination. So what does that look like? Well, we have found those three components. Number one is they're humble. Number two, they are hungry. And number three, they're people smart. Number one, they're humble, meaning that they've realized they've not arrived. Humble people are coachable people. Humble people are listeners. They have 2 ears and 1 mouth and they use them proportionately. They're hungry to learn. They want to be better today than they were yesterday. They want continued growth, and they're humble enough to say, how can I be better? What did you observe? What can I improve upon myself? You know, in theory, if every morning you just made a tiny adjustment in our own self, by the time if you gave it enough time, you would make great progress in personal development. Mm-hmm. And humble people are coachable, they're learnable, they're trainable, and they can then help others accomplish their goal. And number two, we look for people that are hungry. There is a very real sense that those that succeed in life, it's not because of a degree they hold. It's not because of a position they have in a family. It's not because of even their position in their work. You know what it is, Christina? They have a drive. They get up every morning, they work late, they start early, they're hungry, they've got a goal. And I found that personal motivation, being self-motivated, is so much better than being dependent on others to motivate you. So I look for people that are driven, that are hungry, that have goals in life, that want to accomplish some things, that want to be better today than they were yesterday. So we look for people that are hungry. And I'm not the type of person that I'm going to show up at somebody's doorstep, knock on their door at 7 a.m. and say, hey, time to get out of bed, let's go, time to go to work. No, you've got to have that internal drive. And maybe those drives are you want to do some incredible things with your family. Maybe you want to buy a new vehicle or a house or a car or take a vacation, or maybe you want to give to your local nonprofit. Whatever it is, you've got to have that internal drive. You've got to have that internal hunger, and you've got to push, right? And you got to keep working, and you got to be able to get up in the morning. And when you fail forward. And failure is not a person, it's an event. We get back up, we dust ourselves back off, and we get back after it, right? Somebody asked us on one of the webinars, Christina, hey, what do you guys, did you guys make mistakes? Boy, we failed forward. We made so many mistakes. The only difference is we got back up. Right. And we adjusted, and we didn't do it like that again. And we tried to learn that lesson once instead of a dozen times. And so the third thing we're looking for is people skills. And people skills, we call it that they are people smart. The ability to sit across the table from somebody and build a relationship, the ability to connect with others, the ability to be influential. Leadership is only influence, right? So if you're an influencer, you're a leader. And if you can lead someone in our world, it might be in a real estate transaction, a real estate experience. If you can lead them through a process that provides them to have the kind of experience they're excited to tell a friend about, you're a leader. You're influential. You can make a connection. People trust you. Still today, in year 2020, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. That hasn't changed. That was like that when my grandfather was swinging a hammer 50 years ago. They did business with people they know, like, and trust. And that has not changed. You might do it over the internet. You might do it by email. You might even text or Facebook Messenger or whatever. Business with people that you know, like, and trust. That's your trunk. And that's how you're going to create a conduit, a channel. You're going to direct the powerful roots you have in your organization through great team members that are humble, hungry, and smart. And you're going to get all that to the branches. That brings us to the branches. And I want you to think about your branches as the collective behaviors of the team. The collective behaviors of the team. And if the roots are why we do what we do, and the trunk is who we do it with, the branches represent the behaviors of what we do. Now, what do I mean by behaviors? Well, let me just, reviews are really big today, Christina. You and I probably wouldn't go on a vacation, or, Jennifer and I wouldn't stay in a hotel or eat at a new restaurant without reading reviews.
Exactly.
And if you read through reviews at a restaurant or hotel, you're going to find there's some similarities in the reviews, right? So if you were talking about a hotel, it might be cleanliness. If you're talking about a restaurant, it might be quality of food. If you're talking about a service organization, it was their promptness or attention to detail or their service, right? Well, I am convinced whatever organization that you're in, you define what you want the customer to say. You create the collective behaviors of the team. Now, we've got nearly 1,000 5-star reviews, and if you look through those reviews, you're going to see a couple of key things over and over again. You're going to see they communicate. They collaborated.
Mm-hmm.
They were always talking to me. They were always keeping me updated. You're going to see that they are people of integrity or character. Now, they may use different words. The words may change, but the thought remains the same. And I'm convinced if you're going to build a healthy team, pre-decide today what you want those reviews to say.
Mm-hmm.
Rick, are you saying write the reviews for them? Absolutely not. But I'm saying build your business, build your team, build your organization in such a way that the outcome produces what you predestined it to happen.
Mm-hmm.
That you're not waiting for what are they going to say? You know what they're going to say because you've built an organization that, and those branches can carry a lot of weight and a lot of fruit. And you may trim the branch, right? But you don't trim the roots of the trunk. Okay. And so those are the collective behaviors that you want to see show up in your reviews and in your experienced client. Let's move to the fruit, Christina, because I actually think that this is, where a lot of people think, okay, Rick, you haven't even talked about goals yet. Christina, I love your fruit tree. Look at that. I haven't seen that. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Those are
Thank
some
you.
big apples. My goodness, my apples.
Go big or go home. Wait, we are home. Never mind.
So, by the way, building those collective behaviors, they really happen first. Like on my trees, I had them trimmed in the wintertime and created nice, strong, healthy branches, and it can hold a lot of fruit.
Mm-hmm.
And your fruit become your goals. And I will tell you that as an organization, you ought to have goals, right? You ought to think ahead. You ought to kind of point your team in a direction. We use a process called 4DX, the 4 Disciplines of Execution. It's a book written by Stephen Covey. It's a great read. If you're one of my coaching students on the call or one of my team members, you know exactly where I'm going with this. And we define these goals as our WIG goals. Our WIG goals. I'm not talking about a hairpiece. I'm talking about a WIG goal. And a WIG goal is a wildly important goal. And here's what we're convinced on our wildly important goals. You can't have more than 2, right? You ever chase, though, he who chases too many rabbits catches none, right? As an organization, I have a tendency to try to set a dozen goals and nothing happens. Mm-hmm. The moment I say, this is the one thing we're going to accomplish. And until this one thing is done, I'm not moving forward. In some sense, and you know this, Christine, I'm a fisherman and I like to fish. So rather than throwing a million lines out, what I'd rather do is I'd rather throw my line out and reel right up to that fish, right? And catch that one fish instead of trying to catch a million. I'm just trying to catch that one fish, focusing my attention. Christina, you're aware that I run and bike and swim, and it's part of my workout schedule. And I'll tell you what, sometimes I get exhausted on that run, and I'll just say, if I can make it at this pace to hit that tree, if I can just reach that tree, I'll stop, right? That becomes kind of your WIG goal. And I believe you have high-hanging WIG goals or fruit. I think you got low-hanging fruit. Your low-hanging fruit, you might be able to pick that in 6 to 9 months, in a year. Maybe that's something that you want to accomplish by the end of 2020. That's a low-hanging fruit. It's about ready to drop into the bucket. It's ready. You're preparing it. You're watching it. And then I think you also have high-hanging fruit. This becomes the someday dreams. This becomes the one day this is what we're going to accomplish. Now, these are result-oriented. These are things that we focus on to make sure that we accomplish what we intended to accomplish. There's a very real sense when you bring multiple people onto a team, you could lose track of what the goals that you're trying to accomplish. So being able to have these goals and then to clearly share them and articulate them is a key part of being the team leader on a team. So you have these high-hanging fruit goals, long-term, someday, one day, and you have low-hanging fruit. And we use a formula for this, Christina, and I'll give it to you maybe one day if you want, and let us know in the chat box if you'd like us to do a bonus webinar on the 4DX or the 4 Disciplines of Execution. But the formula is real simple. A lot of people write out their goals, and these goals will be like a paragraph, right? Like you'll never remember a goal that's a paragraph. So we use a simple goal: from X to Y by when. That's the goal. That's the formula we use. So maybe I want to move from this point to that point by that date, from X to Y by when. That's your formula for all your WIG goals. That's the formula for your fruit. It's a one sentence. It's very clear, and every team member can remember what your goal is. And they're not trying to guess at it. They don't have to memorize a paragraph or a novel. It's a one sentence from X to Y by when goal.
I heard that that's the difference between a goal and a dream. A goal has measurable points, and a dream you just kind of throw out there.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And there's no measurement, there's no accountability. And the 40X gives you the 4 steps. That's a whole nother webinar, and we talk about it. But the key step is to have a wildly important goal. Like, what fruit are you aiming for on that tree? And if you haven't clearly identified what that fruit is, you're going to be disappointed. If you aim for nothing, you hit it every time. I know I gotta, we gotta move on a little quicker. Let me, and I'll tell you, let me talk about the seeds. And then if it's something that this group would like, maybe another day I talk about the 5 termites that can destroy your tree. What are the 5 termites? But let's talk about the seed, and we'll wrap up with this. The seed is, within a fruit, what's the capacity, what's the potential of an apple? A lot of people say, well, the potential of an apple is 1 apple. And they eat the entire apple and they throw the core away and it's done. And I would tell you the potential of an apple are orchards. Because within each apple are multiple seeds. And multiple seeds represent multiple trees. And multiple trees represent more apples. And more apples represent more seeds. So as an organization, what are you doing with your seeds? Like, what are you doing? Are you planting them back in the ground? Or do you just take the apple core and throw it away, right? Like, what are you doing with the seeds of your organization? What we realized is that we want the seeds of our organization for our customers to produce profitability. Like, when someone works with us to buy or sell a home, if they're buying a home with us, we want them to get a great price and have a great experience. So if they're selling a home, we want them to get a great price and an exceptional experience. That's the profitability to the customer. What's the profitability to the team member? I want them to invest in their 4 R's. I want to get that faucet going. I want to turn it all the way up, and I want them to fill their buckets in line, right? What's the profitability or the seed for the team? It's reinvesting back into the orchards, right? Keeping those trees, because every once in a while a branch breaks. And a good friend of mine said, Rick, sometimes leaves are like people, and they come for a season and they change colors, and then pretty soon they're gone. And then new leaves come. And so, look, that happens in an organization. People come and people go, and we try to minimize it and turn over and try to minimize it. But leaves change. And as leaves change in an organization and things happen, it's helpful to have other trees, right? And so growing this orchard and that seed can help you do that. And that's our culture tree. And if I was to summarize the #1 thing in team building, I've had the privilege now to work with real estate teams all over the country. If there's one thing that a team does, and they do it well, it's have a healthy team. People, Christina, do not leave companies. They leave bad culture. You did not leave that company. You left an unhealthy culture. By us as leaders, as we produce and lead by example and build a healthy team culture or a culture tree, you're going to find that when the storms in life come, you've got good soil and deep roots and a strong trunk, healthy branches, and plentiful fruit, you're going to find that you're going to withstand that storm and make it through. And in some sense, we've very much been going through a storm for the last, 50 days with shelter in place.
Definitely.
And so a healthy culture tree is the #1 thing that'll help you build a real estate team or small business or be an entrepreneur in an organization that lasts.
I think it's important too. It's on both sides of the tree. One as a leader, and then one as an employee or an independent contractor. Who are you going to partner with? Because if you're not going to be part of the healthy orchard, then you're going to get root rot and you're going to die. So partner yourself on either side, as a leader or as an employee.
Yeah, and I just want to make a mention. Maybe we need to do another webinar on the 5 termites. By the way, I see a bunch of people are chiming in on the chat box. If you'd like to, the 5 termites are the 5 things that can destroy your tree. They're the 5 termites that we look out for. Like we identify them, we know them by name, we know them by color, we know what they look like, we know what they smell like, we know their behaviors. These 5 termites, when they're left alone, they destroy a tree. They destroy a great culture.
Yeah.
If you'd like us to go over that in a future webinar, just chime in and say, yeah, cover it, and we'll cover that in the future. Christine, I'll turn it back to you.
I think we're going to have bonus 3 or 4.
Yes.
Because a lot of people have, like Joy said, it's very valuable. So that's about all the time we have today. You can go to our Facebook group, agentsthrive.com, to get all the updates on the current COVID-19 crisis, how it's affecting businesses, real estate. Rick is constantly putting updates on there, so thank you, Rick. You can go to agentsthrive.com, and I will put our bonus webinars on there. I also have a button on there, so if you have any questions for Rick, myself, the team, click on that button, or you can email me at Christina with a CH at rickfuller.com, and we will get back to you. We want to hear your questions. We want to cater these webinars to you and your needs, so please put those there. When this box closes, you'll see a survey. Please, you can ask your questions there, give us questions or comments. Thank you, Rick. This has been valuable. I wish my past bosses would have listened to this, but I'm glad that I'm working for you and you are implementing this every day. So thank you for your integrity and your leadership. And everyone, thank you for spending part of your morning here. We look forward to seeing you on our bonus webinars. Stay safe and healthy, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.